Bad Breaks Podcast, episode 6. Starting it off with Oh Why by Bad Larry.
And oh, why, you may ask? Well, oh, why do we have to lose such a powerful influence in music? Do we know what I'm talking about, Mark?
Today is October 8th, 2020, and 2 days ago we found that the world has lost Edward Van Halen of the mighty Van Halen, and so we ask, why does this have to happen? Why?
I mean, as guitar people, it's a tragic loss to this community of fellows that like to use their instruments, particularly the guitar. I don't think I'm giving a very great. I think you might be able to say better.
I know what you're trying to say, which is a community of guitar players that like to play loud rock. I mean, we were probably a lot of us were influenced by Ed Van Halen, and his ability to, coerce that thing into making amazing sounds. After his passing, you know what I find wild in this era? It's like you jump online and you can go to people's Facebook page, and find the things they did just recently or in the last year or two, and it really makes you realize, how valuable life is and how huge a loss it is to lose life. In this scenario, I mean, Ed's a legend as a player, but you go on his Facebook page and there's a dancing chicken with Ed's face in it, which is funny because you're like, wow, I didn't realize that was there. And then it shows his humorous side, and then there's another side of him taking a new Wolfgang guitar in 2017, making crazy animal noises with it, and I reposted that yesterday.
As a techie kind of guitar guys, I would think you kind of are when from what I've heard from your playing.
Well, yeah.
What do you take from an Edward Van Halen?
What do I take from him?
Yeah, like what is it? What do you think makes him such a special player? In your shoes, in your own words.
I think his feel, the way he approached the instrument's amazing. He had great tone. He used effects in a way that most people don't, which is he did layer them pretty heavily.
You've been teaching guitar. You went to school for guitar, right? I mean, this is
pretty much. I went to school for music and recording. Yeah.
Where does Eddie Van Halen sit in all of that?
Well, I mean, Van Halen's an amazing guitar player. He was an amazing guitar player. Right. So where does he sit in all that? Well, he was innovative in the idea that his tone was innovative. The way he approached the instrument was innovative, because I don't think he was really trained as a guitar player. He was trained as a pianist, and then he transferred it.
He evolved into a guitar player.
In playing guitar, yeah.
Interesting.
So even like that whole tune in a half step down, Ed was really big into that.
Really?
He flat,
That was his...
You were into that for a while, right? Tuning down the 432, I think it is.
I'm learning it.
No, but that was a big thing. All his stuff. And a lot of players from the 80s would all tune down.
Because of him.
I would think so. I mean, I don't know if this is,
Let me read what some people have reported. TMZ reported he died in St. John's Hospital in Santa Monica this past Tuesday, but his wife by his side. The last 72 hours went massively downhill. Doctors discovered his throat cancer had moved to his brain as well as other organs, according to TMZ. His son, Wolfgang Van Halen, commented on social media, "I can't believe I'm having to write this, but my father, Edward Ludwig Van Halen, has lost his long and arduous battle with cancer this morning. He was the best father and friend I could ever ask for. Every moment I've shared with him on and off the stage was a gift. My heart is broken. I don't think I will ever fully recover from this loss. I love you so much, Pop." Sammy Hagar commented, "Heartbroken and speechless. My love to the family. The tributes are already pouring in from all the rock and the metal world. Does music change after the passing of Eddie Van Halen?"
I don't know who holds that torch now. I mean, Ed was the I mean, somebody said, somebody compared him to Hendrix. And now all these greats that we know of, I don't think you can compare to each other, but,
I would compare him to Hendrix in the level of innovation.
Well, yes, exactly. Okay, so therefore, so we could say that Hendrix was the 60s and the 70s, right?
Right.
I mean, so was Zappa, and so was Jimmy Page.
Right.
And Clapton in
Jeff
the blues
Beck.
world, Jeff Beck. I mean, and now you go into this and you're like, okay, well, who takes over? And there's great players. Eric Johnson,
Yngwie Malmsteen, Joe
Satriani, Steve Vai.
Yeah.
There's a list
plenty
of great,
prolific players,
plenty and innovative guys, but yet Ed was his own animal, right? So it's
what made him his own animal? And you're as a guitar
player and a musician, I think what made Ed his own animal is the fact that Ed was so well-rounded in so many departments. And not well-rounded. He was a virtuoso in so many departments. Mm-hmm. The man had a great tone. He played the guitar like no one else. He made a stylistic change into it. He made it part of his gig, right? It was part of his whole thing. He also had a sound like no one's. He used effects in a way. He also was a studio guy, so he made a comment in one of the interviews he goes, I live in the studio, so all that electromagnetism going around or something like that, he said. And that's he was totally into being in the studio working in his spot a lot, so making music. So.
Well, we're gonna roll into our second break here, the rear break, and in this rear break, there's a couple things we need to go over. Marc's top 3 Van Halen songs. Marc, as a guitar guy, you've been playing guitar for I don't know how many years now. 20 years?
Oh my God, for a long time.
Right?
Yes.
Your top 3 Van Halen songs.
I'd say one of them has to be. This is a really tough gig because you can't really just pick 3. Right. But
we're trying to make it short for the bad
for
breaks.
The bad breaks.
So,
but Little Dreamer has got to be up there.
A wise Little Dreamer.
This is such a great riff. This was my introduction to the minor 7th chord.
Oh.
And, I mean, this is such a sweet track.
It is. Very, very, kind of droning, dragging. Not really,
sweet.
Flashy. But a bluesy kind of. What is it about this track that did it for you?
I don't know. It's just grooves.
Sitting back with the vocal, it seems like the vocal has an effect on you.
Oh, I mean, the vocal does.
There you go.
I mean, Dave was pretty smooth on this one, but it's definitely awesome.
Okay.
I love this, man. And then I can't get away from this. I mean,
Panama.
This rips.
Yeah.
I mean, this is on 84. I thought this came post 84. I don't know why. Probably because, Jump was big 84 song, right? But, man, this just soars.
Have you ever sat down and tried breaking this riff out?
I play it all the time.
All the time.
All the time.
Does it feel good?
Oh, it's great. It's great.
What is this riff built in?
What keys in it?
Yep.
Well, it's E flat, right?
Yep.
So, it's E flat. It's great. Oh, it's so good. I mean, it's E flat, E on the guitar, because if you tune it down a half step, then it's E flat.
Okay.
Jump back. All right, so, I mean, there's this one.
This is number 3.
Oh, this is so good.
That is great. Yeah.
These two playing together, the brothers, are just amazing.
I mean, for me, I gotta hear Panama.
How about this? And then there's this one. This is 3.5. Summer Nights. This is off I think OU812. But this,
great record.
What I love about this,
a lot of record people forget about and how big that record was.
What I love about this is when Ed was using the Steinberger. Not that it matters that he was using the Steinberger or not, right? The headless guitar, right? What I love about this is I was probably just into high school. We were digging on this record, and they played New Haven. I don't know if we went to this show or not. I've had some friends that said we went to this show. I'm not sure if I did. But I do know this.
So it's very quiet, is it?
It's a live tape.
Okay.
Summer Nights. Here's the deal. This video was from New Haven Coliseum, and I'm a New Haven boy. So I actually got to play New Haven Coliseum before they demolished it. But I think that was 18 years ago they demolished it. But 13 years ago they demolished it. Sorry, not 18. Yeah. It was the week after Cadence was born, actually. But because we were right across the street, I was like, oh, we're right across the street. But they filmed this in 86 at New Haven.
Nice.
And they retitled it New Halen, Connecticut.
Nice.
Right? Just like when I played New Haven Coliseum, it was with Rage Against the Machine. It was the Battle of Los Angeles album. And when they came into New Haven, the backdrop read the Battle of New Haven. It's pretty awesome.
In the vein of the Ed Van Halen and his legacy, have you ever had an encounter with this man and you're on the road?
I met Ed at the DCU Center in Worcester, Massachusetts, in November. I think it was November 6th in 2007. I know November 6th because I just looked it all up. And we were backstage after their sound check, after the Van Halen sound check, and I was speaking with someone on the road, and Ed came into the conversation. And I was like, holy shit. Ed Van Halen just walked over to the conversation. And so, and then I
can only imagine what's going through your head at that point.
Well, I'm kind of like, somebody walks, it's like, this is what I'm thinking. I'm thinking like, here is the man, probably the boss of the operation. The legend and the boss of the operation, right? He's the guy. So I'm thinking like, he's talking to somebody else that I'm talking to, but I can't get involved in this conversation. So I just kind of back off, but I'm not going to leave the conversation either, right? So kind of keeping my ear into the conversation a little bit, but staying away. And then at the same time, not running away from the conversation because I don't know where that's going. Maybe he came over because he wanted to say, hey, who the F are you?
Yeah.
What are you doing here? Yeah. I don't even know who you are. So, but at that time, my old tech, who was now Ed's tech and Wolfie's tech, was Wolfie's tech at that point. Right.
Wow.
He got me there, so he ran up the corridor and said, Ed, this is my best friend, Marc. And Ed said, hey, man, it's great. Cool. And he gave me a big hug. And he goes, something effective.
The man hugged you.
Ed hugged me.
Wow.
Yeah, which is pretty awesome. The word is that he doesn't hug a lot of people. So he gave me a big hug. And I was like, holy crap, man. Ed just hugged me. And
if anybody wants to be hugged by a man that was hugged by Eddie, I got him right here. Just to let you know.
So Ed hugs me. He goes, hey, man, you having a good time? And, of course, my response is, yeah, man. This is awesome. And he's like, hey, anything you want. Let Chris know, which is Chris is my friend. So I was like, holy cow, that's amazing. And then I was whisked away.
If you had to put it in as a moment in your life, top 10 moment, what is this? What is meeting Mr. Eddie Van Halen in your life?
Well, it's
right up there, right?
It's right up there. Yeah. It might be number one. Might be number two. It's pretty good, man. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of moments.
When they lock in with the rest of the band, I mean, what is it? It's got to be quite the experience.
It is. It is pretty wild. I mean, I was able to watch soundcheck. Ed, just started playing, and then when Al starts up to play with Ed, I mean, I don't remember what they played. It probably wasn't something I was familiar with. It was probably just something they were jamming on. Mm-hmm. But man, it feels like Van Halen. It just has that Van Halen vibe. Those two together are magic.
It's amazing.
I thought it was incredible. incredible to witness, man. It was like kind of like, at that point, it was like me and the people, setting up chairs and the crew in the band, minus Dave. So it was like the Van Halens basically up on stage. But it was wild to sit there back at the sound booth and have them, they were just jamming. But it was like a fly on the wall. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, so Van Halen, obviously they've had their controversies throughout the year. I mean, they haven't they've changed band members and frontman and all that stuff, and obviously everything that's going on with Eddie. But they've made a solid impact in rock and roll. There ain't no doubt about it. A friend of in the rear breaks of this segment, I'm gonna talk about a post that a friend of my mother's shared with her experience of actually seeing Van Halen when she was a young lady back on the 1984 tour. She had front row center seat both for New Haven and Hartford. The Hartford show was a blizzard. It was a blizzard. Her friend Ken had gotten her there, and she had front row seats to this particular show. And she was trying to get David Lee Roth's attention because back in those times, everybody was a David Lee Roth fan because he was obviously the predominant front man with the long hair and with all his
Diamond Dave
running around like a maniac. So she tried to get this man's attention, and he waved to from what her story says, he waved to everybody behind her and was more paid attention to everyone, on the outer perimeter of the stadium. Eddie ran up to her at this particular point in time and actually shook her hand. She brought a white rose to this particular show to give to David Lee Roth because that was the heartthrob back then. And she gave it to Eddie. And it would be curious to know how long Eddie held onto that rose. And, in that particular show, the set list for that night in 1979 in New Haven, these were the tracks: Light Up the Sky, Somebody Give Me a Doctor, a drum solo, Running with the Devil, Dance the Night Away, Beautiful Girls, On Fire, a bass solo, You're No Good, Jamie's Crying, Feel Your Love Tonight, Out of Love Again, Ice Cream Man, Ain't Talking About a lot of love songs. Almost sounds like Beatles. Guitar solo, You Really Got Me, Bottoms Up, Atomic Punk. Mark, 1979, that's quite the set list right there.
That is a pretty long set list, actually. And to end with Atomic Punk.
Yeah.
That's kind of wild.
Yeah. If there's a riff that Mr. Amendola would play inspired by Van Halen, what would that be?
What do you mean?
What's your top Van Halen riff?
Well, I thought we just went through those.
Your songs. What's your top riff? To me, it would have to be what's the song? The school song.
Hot for Teacher?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I know Hot for Teacher. Yeah. I mean, I do that lick a lot. I do the Eruption licks.
Eruption's
But there's a lot of great tunes. I mean, Drop Dead Legs. I love that riff. Bag a jigga won't stick around. Right? That's a great riff. I mean, amazing stuff.
So, with that being said, on this somber night, even though it's a couple days past, we hail salute to Mr. Eddie Van Halen and all the work that he has done.
Oh man, it's just amazing
to create a generation of musicians. I don't think Hendrix made an impact, obviously, but I think Mr. Van Halen was a whole nother level, to be quite frank.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think Van Halen Edward Van Halen definitely made a lot of musicians and fans, and a lot of people admired what he was doing in a lot of levels.
Absolutely. So exiting this little episode of Night 6 on the podcast show, what are we leaving out on?
Well, I mean, let's not forget. I mean, we've lost an amazing guitar player, a legend. I mean, where was you when you found out about the news?
I actually I was actually talking to a spiritual advisor at the point in time, and it was ironic enough that they mentioned that some musician had passed away, which I had not heard, and I don't know if this person had got the information before I had. But as I got on the road after I left that's when I got the news, and I was like kind of blown away. I mean, everybody kind of knew that he was going through the cancer struggles. It was kind of in the air,
Right.
But nobody ever knows when that's going to happen.
Right.
So, yeah, it was sucked. It really does suck. I mean, you want to see a band like Van Halen go out there again and do their thing, and it ain't going to happen, This is
I think without Ed, that's just it, right? I mean,
right, yeah, there's going to be the Satrianis. There's going to be the Eric Johnsons, the Invays. Those guys can play at the level, right? And there's going to be the new guys that are going to come up. There's the young guys that have been sitting there using technology to emulate what Eddie does now, but it's not the same thing. I mean,
absolutely. But I mean, you have the idea that, this guy's
people are going to emulate. People already are ripping off the sound. People are going to do that. The beauty of Eddie Van Halen, in my opinion, is the fact of the matter that he created it. He was. You and I had this conversation before we even started the show. Just to talk about this before we even started the show, Marc was talking about a gentleman who had one of his guitars or whatever, and how he made the guitar to how he wanted it to be. What was the story? Something along the lines it was a guitar that was.
So I was at. So when I went to go meet, I didn't go meet him. I was up at DCU to go to the show and meet somebody I knew on the event. So, but I was showing his guitars, and it was like
Eddie's guitars.
Yeah, and I guess it was a prototype or something that he got the day before, and I guess he didn't like it, so he chiseled out the pickup.
The chiseler.
He chiseled out
Chisla.
He chiseled out a section around the pickup to mount the pickup on the wood like Ed would normally do. And, in the way the story was told me, it was hey man, he kind of took a chisel and a hammer to this last night.
The savage.
Well, he was just, I think he was just trying to make it work the way he wanted it to work.
A guitar vigilante.
Yeah, well. And he was this guitar is beautiful, but he took a chisel to it last night. Well, it's still beautiful to me, man. It's just got a little wood in there.
And listen, they would say the same stuff about Hendrix, though. A legend I've always heard about Hendrix is that guy could take a guitar, it would be out of tune, and he would bend the notes into submission to make them tune.
I think if I'm correct, Jimmy couldn't tune his guitar that great. I think at one gig in England, they had I think Paul McCartney tuned it or something.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I think.
Jimmy or
I gotta. You know what? I'm gonna let you validate that story. I don't know if that's so true,
but I did hear that he would bend his notes into submission.
Maybe it was Clapton.
Could have been Clapton. Somebody I talked to the other day didn't realize that Jimmy Page, Jeff Beck, and Eric Clapton played in the same band.
The Yardbirds.
Yeah. He was like, no fucking way. I said, yeah man.
Yeah, they all played.
A lot of people, and another thing, a lot of people, they give Eddie Van Halen a lot of credit for tapping.
Right, but you know what? And I think Ed's too. Ed's was a great player, and he took the tapping thing to a whole different level. Right. However, even just a few weeks ago, I've been really getting into Frank Zappa, and I saw in 64, I think, or 65, Frank Zappa playing. It was tapping on a show.
And another guy that a lot of people, they don't give the credit to. for a tapper was Jeff Beck.
Jeff Beck's awesome.
Yeah.
Jeff Beck is awesome. He has, Jeff Beck doesn't even play with a pick. How awesome is that? And I think Jeff Beck loves to fix cars too, from what I gather.
But let's say this: what's not a great thing to be able to have this conversation, inspired by the man like Eddie Van Halen?
Eddie Van Halen, man, Godspeed to the man.
Yeah, man.
He's brought us so many amazing pieces of music with amazing tones.
And this guy on the other mic hugged that man.
Well,
true story.
Ed hugged me.
Listen, no.
It's all good.
Hey,
I'm happy to be that.
We're gonna take this bad breaks because it's not a bad break. It's a little bit of a bad break, but it may be sort of a bad break.
We're on our way out. Yeah,
we're on our way out.
All right.
To a track.
We're on our way out to a track by.
Dude, come on, do the talk up.
We're on our way out to this track by Fear the State called Forgiven. Fear the State, Forgiven. Bad Breaks Podcast. Listen, if you want to hear any of the music that we played tonight on the Bad Breaks Podcast, you go to Bad Breaks Podcast on YouTube, and you will be able to get to episode 6. There's a playlist of all these tunes. If you'd like to contact us, you contact us at badbreakspodcast@gmail.com. That's badbreakspodcast@gmail.com.
And there's a great video for this song on YouTube if you go and look for it, because I found it a long time ago. Live version of this track.
Live?
Mr. Amendola. Yeah, you played this at a bar. I saw this years ago.
I think I meant the God. We did a gig with Godsmack in 2007. I think we played it there too. But there's and that's somewhere floating around. But yeah, the video was made in a bar in Groton.
Yeah, it was a beautiful, great. That's how it happens to be out in my home turf right there. And just to say it again, Mr. Edward Van Halen, from all of us out to you and your family, God bless you, man. Thank you for everything that you've done for us.
Yep.
Bad breaks.